Jiggy cat on a damn feeling spree. This is Nagato, and you can't mimic my energy. 100 round drum and me hanging like a centipede. Hey everyone, it's me Nagato's Adventure. Hope you guys are having an awesome day for today, and I hope you guys are having a great New Year's Day. Just want to say thank you for all the love and support I've been receiving on my channel since 2019. But for today's video, I'm going to be talking about the PlayStation Vita and why you possibly need one in 2020. As many of you guys know, if you ever watch my channel, I'm in love with the PlayStation Vita. That's why I have two of my Japanese PS Vitas right here with me. And for today's video, I'm going to be speaking on certain topics, or 5 topics in particular, on things I could basically tell you on why having a modded Vita is like the most greatest thing you could probably have if you're into modding or if you just love the PlayStation Vita itself. So with that getting out the way, I'm just going to be starting on today's 5 topics. And if you did like this video at all, please be sure to leave a like, please be sure to comment down below, and you can feel free to join my Discord. I will have a little card right here showcased on the screen and a link if you could join via that way. But with all of that being said, let's go ahead and get started on talking about the 5 things for today's video. First things first, we're going to be talking about emulation. The PlayStation Vita is a emulation beast. It can play GBA games, PSP, PS1, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and I will show this in parts in the video. So each part or each segment of the topic I'll state will be, executed in the video. So I'll go more in depth on certain emulators. The second topic we're also going to be talking about is custom themes. So I really love to personalize my systems to make it feel like my own. So if you're into, backgrounds and custom themes, with a modded PlayStation Vita, you can hook up custom themes to your system. Some other cool things, I'll show you this little device right here called SD to Vita, and this is a savior to the PlayStation Vita. If anybody knows, the original memory cards in a PlayStation Vita are truly horrible. They cost way too much, and you don't get basically your most bang for your buck. Like 64 gigabytes goes for $100, rather than you can buy a cheap 64 gigabyte micro SD card like I do on Amazon, and with this SD to Vita adapter, and you can store so much space on your Vita. I've even seen videos and people out there with 512 gigabytes on their PlayStation Vita, and you could basically have a little mini portable system in your pocket with thousands of ROMs and games just on the go. Even though that the Nintendo Switch is still out, and it's doing very good, of course, of sales, I still think the PlayStation Vita was really above its time when it was released in 2011. The other topic we're going to be talking about is plugins, and I'm just going to not be labeling all of the plugins that I think you should need, or I could kind of showcase for this video, but certain plugins on a PlayStation Vita really makes the system even more awesome. Some such things as like overclocking, basically having a plugin called Repatch, by basically taking games patch files and patching it with English translations, for example, and I'll get in more about that into plugins and stuff like that later on in the video. Last but not least, the other topic I'm going to be stating on today is just the general use of what having a modded PlayStation Vita is, and just some overall things you could do with it, just as like game backups and stuff like that. That's another topic, and how to basically back up your games and also run backup games as well. With all those topics out the way, the first topic we're going to get into is emulation, and with all of that getting out the way, let's go ahead onto the PlayStation Vita and see what some things we could cook up for today's video. Hey everyone, welcome back to part 1 for this segment. For this segment, we're going to be talking about emulation. So if you guys into playing, classic retro games on the go, this segment is just for you for this video. One thing I do want to state before we even get into the nitty gritty and before I showcase everything, I want to state this is not an official guide on how to basically install this. If you guys want to basically learn how to install like emulators and stuff like that, or anything I talk about in a video, I will have cards in like each segment or throughout the video spread around. So if I touch on a certain topic and it like pertains on that same thing, I will have a card basically showing a installation guide that I made from back in the day. So yeah guys, if you interested on installing this, you could look in the link in the description down below, or click on the cards so you could get this installed on your Vita device. However, this is just a showcase for basically the the whole entirety of this video. But what we're going to be focusing on, since you can see my PlayStation Vita on the screen, we're going to be talking about emulation. The first emulator I want to just go ahead and get started off talking about is via RetroArch. Many of you guys know RetroArch is a front-end basically core which supports a multitude of emulators in one, and it's for a multitude of devices. So if you ever had a modded PlayStation 3, for example, I know the Xbox 360s had RetroArch at some point as well. You know, original PSP, a Retro Pi, or excuse me, a Raspberry Pi, or if you had a PC, RetroArch, you know, has been making its rounds to a multitude of devices, 3DS, the Switch, such and so forth, Android, iOS. But yeah, if you guys are into retro gaming, I highly recommend, if you have a modded PlayStation Vita, or if you don't, go ahead and install RetroArch. So let's go ahead and launch the app itself. And I'll just show some gameplay on how to basically, you know, navigate through it. I'm not going to show, you know, everything. Later on in this segment too, for part 1, I will show a full showcase on how emulators run from RetroArch, Adrenaline, and as well some other games as well that I cherry picked for this video. But yeah, here is RetroArch. It still has its XMB kind of UI, which is pretty cool. So I'm just going to go ahead and showcase some gameplay. I'll have some audio running in the background, but I'll turn it off pretty quickly due to you know, copyright issues and all that stuff. But it's fairly simple on how to start up games. The emulation is phenomenal on the PlayStation Vita, especially if you overclock your system too. Games run at 60 frames per second or 30 frames per second, whatever is like the standard rate. But if you're into, you know, or if you're moving around a lot in life, or you know, you're always on the go, having a modded PlayStation Vita to play your classics is fun. So I'm just going to play one of my favorite games from the Sega Genesis using the internal Picodrive, which is Streets of Rage. So if there's any delay or lag, it's probably just OBS, but other than that, it runs perfectly. The audio, I'll play it close to the screen or the actual microphone. The audio doesn't have any lag or anything like that as well. Within RetroArch for the PlayStation Vita, there are cool things you could set, you know, your custom theme UI, there's save states, there's a bunch of stuff you could have, like CRT filters, which I'm not really into, but I know some people are. But yeah, that is just some stuff you could do, add thumbnails to your game. So that's just some things in RetroArch. I'm going to go ahead and rerun RetroArch again just to show off another core, and RetroArch supports a multitude of cores. So if you're into like Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, even PlayStation 1, which surprisingly there's no reason to use PS1 games on, you know, the PS Vita, since the PlayStation 1 games are already natively supported. But I showcased here are some Super Nintendo games on my system. You can see that I have the cover arts already set up, basically up for SNES games. I'm trying to find basically Super Mario World, but I probably can't. Let me check my history, because I know they keep, actually that's a one cool thing too, they keep a history of logs. So let's see if I can run this. So yeah, here is Super Mario All Stars, and it, I guess, contains like basically all of the SNES Mario games, like Super Mario World and Super Mario 3. So here is it running on the PlayStation Vita. This is no trickery. You can still see that I am, you know, on the PlayStation Vita itself. So let me go ahead and just start it up. I'm just going to go ahead and turn off the volume just because of copyright issues. But yeah, you can see that I could play, you know, classic Super Mario games or anything from the SNES. So if you had like a ROM pack or something, which I will have a card right now showcasing if you guys are installing like ROM packs onto your Vita on how to get that set up with RetroArch or on Adrenaline, I'll have a card for that. But yeah, this is Super Mario World running on the PlayStation Vita, which is pretty cool since I love this game. Speaking of emulation, I know I'm probably just going to be, you know, running over stuff really fast, since, you know, I don't want to make this video too long, but that's just RetroArch itself. You could do things like I such as stated, save states, you know, emulation ROM mods and all of that fun stuff. The next emulator we're going to go ahead and get into is Adrenaline, and this by far is probably one of my favorite emulators of all time. What Adrenaline is, is basically a PlayStation Portable in your PS Vita, essentially. It uses some like tie-hen CFW framework, and what it does is turns your PlayStation Vita into an actual PSP, which is crazy. It still has like the general UI, and it looks like I'm recording off an original PSP, and it even has like the same, you know, key tone sounds when you move around. Even at, I think, one point you could still even connect to, you know, sign up for PlayStation Network via with the Adrenaline app, which is crazy as well. But if I go to my memory stick, you can see that I have some certain games. Let me turn that down. I have Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, the original Gran Turismo, or not the original, but the PSP version, Kingdom Hearts, Birth by Sleep, a ton of emulators and stuff that you could run in the actual emulator itself. So it's kind of crazy. You could run a emulator in an emulator via using Adrenaline. So this is basically a PSP emulator. I'll just go ahead and showcase some gameplay as well, and it's pretty cool what you could do. So I'll choose one of my favorite games, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, and I will be turning you know, it down because I know Square Enix loves the flag for Kingdom Hearts. But yeah, here is Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep running on the PlayStation Vita, and as many of you guys know, that game never released ever on the PSN store. So having Adrenaline 2, if you were a PSP fan and you love the modding scene, then having Adrenaline on your PlayStation Vita is pretty cool, because there are also some plugins. I'll talk about that later in part 3 of this segment, but there also are some cool plugins you could implement with Adrenaline, and you could get you know, better resolution for your games. You could also have something with dual analog. So I know Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep is supported. So if you guys remember, on the original PlayStation Portable, there was never a right analog stick. So with that being said, you used to have to use the L and R button, or yeah, the L and R button triggers to basically turn the camera, which made gameplay kind of difficult at times, and you know, you probably used to lose a lot. But using, you know, with PlayStation Vita or using Adrenaline plugins via with like auto plugin, you can use your right analog stick. So yeah, here is Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep running on my PS Vita, which is pretty damn amazing. And you could even, you know, run mod cheats for this game as well. You could, you know, anything you could have did on a PSP, you could still even install like PSP plugins and like patches for games, which I'll have a card right now showcasing, or a little playlist for, you know, if you're into Japanese patches to English for certain titles and games. You could even do that within a Vita Adrenaline emulator. Also, you could even copy your PSP save data from your original PSP to your Vita as well. I have a video on that if you guys want to check that out. I'll have that in a card. But let me go ahead and back out. Even with some settings in Adrenaline as well, you can have save states. You could also, you know, mess with some of the advanced settings. So if you wanted to change the aspect ratio, you want to have smooth graphics on. It has the credits for the developers as well. You can even have a DualShock 4 and DualShock 3 controller operating within Adrenaline itself, which is pretty cool. So if you have a PS4 controller and you want to play your games that way, it makes it, you know, way much better. So yeah, that's just some cool things you could do in Adrenaline. Let me go ahead and back out. Of course, you could play some PlayStation 1 titles. So let me go ahead and back out of Adrenaline for a second. So exit Emu. So you can see that Adrenaline is running fine. One cool thing too, there is another program which you can run the actual PlayStation Adrenaline bubbles. So instead of going in Adrenaline each time to boot up a game, all it would do is basically just run the bubble from your live area, which is faster. So here's Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep within the Adrenaline bubble manager is running via on the Vita. So you can see that it boots in the game just as normal. If we went into Adrenaline, it's just a faster way. So let me exit out. You can see that I had Crash Bandicoot in there as well. You could just boot that via from here or Adrenaline if you had Adrenaline Bubble Manager. So yeah, emulation on the PlayStation Vita is a great thing. Like for me, I always like, if you load up your Vita with an SD to Vita and you have like a 256 gigabyte SD card, you could have like, you know, thousands of OG ROMs and stuff on the go in your pocket. So here's Crash Bandicoot, just showcasing this on the screen. You can see that the audio works, of course, phenomenally, since the PlayStation Vita already has a, you know, native emulator for the PS1, so there's no lag and stuff. It's an official emulator from Sony. But yeah, here is some stuff about emulation. That's all I would have to say in terms of emulation. There are some standalone emulators like RetroArch FB Alpha if you're into like playing OG Neo Geo games. There's stuff like I'm trying to think real quick if I have it. There's also like standalone Amiga emulators. There's stuff for the Wonder Swan, excuse me, in RetroArch. There's MGBA, so you can play classic Game Boy Advance games. But yeah, right now what I'm going to do for this segment, since this is running at 11 minutes, I'm going to showcase some gameplay of, you know, just other games running, and then we're going to go ahead and get started on part 2 and talk about custom themes.
I would look at a drunk if I was it!
American feast, include otter steaks, dried fish, and raw turnips. Plus, the kids can put on pilgrim costumes and be part of dinner by strangling a turkey or choking a chicken. Or visit on Circle the Wagons Wednesday that brutally slaughter indigenous populations and call it civilization.
Hurrah! To the Pilgrim's Pantry, where good friends, good values, and hunger are history.
You having a fun hunter? I hope so. She miss you, so call your mommy. I call mommy in heaven. Mommy, I miss you. You were so beautiful. Such a beautiful face.
I wanted to see. 2 laps to go. What have I got? What have I got?
Alrighty guys, welcome back to part 2 of this segment. The next segment we're going to be talking about is custom themes. And one thing I do love about the PlayStation Vita, or just any system, I like to customize my own systems to make it feel like my own. And I'm going to be showing you guys on some cool ways on how to install custom themes onto your device, or just showcase what people have made for the PlayStation Vita. So I already have some previously downloaded onto my console. So if I go into themes, you can see that there are a ton of themes for the PlayStation Vita that was never released in the PSN store, and this was just made by regular people who created themes for the Vita that had, of course, modded systems. So one of my favorite ones, if you guys know me personally, I love cars. Let me go ahead and back out. You can see that this custom theme has like a OG Skyline GTR from the 70s on it. There's also like a Porsche 911 Turbo, and most of these themes look very clean and clear. Let me go ahead, and everything's customized via from the bubbles. Some of them come with audio, so I don't know if you hear that in the background. You can see that clearly somebody has taken their time, and there are a ton of themes that you can install on your PlayStation Vita. So there is one thing I want to go ahead and showcase now called Custom Theme Manager, which is basically a homebrew application that allows you to install a multitude of themes. So what's cool about this, you could already apply a theme, you could download and install a new theme from the online basically repository. So if you have your Wi-Fi on, you could just download basically themes from their servers, whoever is hosting this. You can also install custom themes from a local folder. So if you got some from online, you just put it onto Vita Shell or something like that, then you're good to go and you can install from there. You can uninstall themes, back them up, set a default partition, dump an official theme. So let's say you bought one from the PSN store, you can actually dump it to your console or to a USB device, or from the actual Vita itself, I should say. But let's go ahead and find a theme. So there are tons of themes for the PlayStation Vita, so it does take a while for it to download depending on your internet speed. So here are some new ones actually still being made as I am recording this. There is a Windows XP theme, which I'm pretty interested to look at, and it's pretty easy to install. All you gotta do is hit X on your controller, then it's pretty much done for the most part. So it's downloading the zip, it's extracting the contents out of the actual file, and then it's very simple on how to install. So if you want some a customized feel for your system, it's pretty easy to implement this. So it's done. All I would have to do is hit start to write, and now that is installed onto my database. I'm just going to go ahead and choose another one. You could hit R on your PlayStation Vita, scroll through the other custom themes. So there's some stuff like the Hidden Mist theme. There's also Neon Gen Eva, which is pretty cool. I have a lot of anime based theme ones, so if you're a weeb like me, there's a lot of content for us. Let's see, they have Sly Cooper, Persona 5, Naruto stuff. So yeah, there are a bunch of themes you can install on your modded device. And mind you, this does still work with any model PlayStation Vita, so 1000, 2000, as well as the PSTV. I don't know. I'm gonna be using. We could do the XX Tentacion theme. Rest in peace to just say. So we could just download that to our PlayStation Vita 2 as well. So yeah, once both of these themes or this theme is finished, what we're going to do is just go ahead and write it to our theme. So if we go to our system settings, we could see that our themes are here now. We could choose out the XX Tentacion one. So I'm not going to play any audio because I already know this song is probably going to get copyright. But yeah, this theme looks pretty cool, especially, so whoever made this, shouts out to you. And then you can see that I have, a custom theme on my system. You could try out the Windows XP one. So let me go into settings, go into Windows XP. And now if you want to have like an OG Windows XP look on your damn device, I'm probably going to keep this. It looks pretty damn cool. You get the OG like Windows, the little background for Windows XP. So yeah, that is some cool things you can set up on your PlayStation Vita that is modded as well. With that being said, since we already got 2 themes installed, we're going to go ahead and toggle on part 3 and start talking about custom plugins. Welcome guys to part 3 of this segment. We're going to be talking about custom plugins. As you see, I still haven't taken down the Windows XP actual theme, but what we're going to do is talk about how plugins can enhance your overall gameplay, plus make your time playing on your PlayStation Vita much better rather than if you were playing on a stock PlayStation Vita that wasn't modded. So one of the program we're going to be just focusing on entirely for this section is called Auto Plugin. If you guys are already into the Vita modding scene, Auto Plugin is probably not new to you. If you guys want to know how to install that, I will have a card right now and also a video and a link in the description down below showcasing about it. But what Auto Plugin is, it allows you to install multiple plugins at once for your PlayStation Vita, and it allows you to do some cool things on your device. So for example, if I scroll all the way down, there are over 72 plugins alone. There's more online, of course, but basically all of the main ones and the ones that most people use, you could find in via Auto Plugin as well. So some cool plugins that you can implement that can help your gaming or basically just enhance the quality of gaming for you. There's something called, if I scroll down to try to find it real quick, I'm trying to find it. I just covered this in a other video. It's called PS Vita. Yeah, basically what PS Vita is a overclocking plugin which allows you to overclock your PS Vita games. So let's say if you wanted to get a better frame rate in certain games, or if you notice like a game like Borderlands 2 or Call of Duty, it was kind of choppy, you could get actually better gameplay to run via if you overclock your system. So I think I already have that plugin here. So yeah, as you see here, I already have PS Vita. You can see that my CPU is at 333 megahertz. If I wanted to overclock my system to 500 megahertz, I can, but I'll just leave it stand by for now. And then you can also save your profile. So let's say if you wanted to save for a certain game that you want those settings to enhance your gameplay, to stop lag and any like frame buffering and stuff like that, you can. So games like Borderlands 2 will be a primary example. Let's go ahead and back into Auto Plugin to explain a little bit more on some other plugins that can enhance your gameplay. We could talk about Refood. This plugin right here allows you to run games on a lower firmware. So for example, let's say if you had a modded PlayStation Vita on 3.60, you would not be able to originally to play games on a higher firmware like on 3.73. So let's say I'll just state a game for an example. Let's say if there was a new Final Fantasy coming to PlayStation Vita, which it's not, but let's say a new Final Fantasy comes to the PS Vita and it requires 3.73 firmware. If I try to play that game on my PS Vita that is on 3.60 Henkaku Enzo, so I'll show you if I go into my settings real quick and go into system settings, system information, you can see that I'm on 3.60 firmware. That game on 3.70 would not be able to play unless I had Refood. So I wouldn't be also playing like a game like Catherine on my system or my device, since that game required a higher firmware. Thus Refood actually bypasses that and allows you to play basically programs that require a higher firmware. Some other cool things which I recommend if you're into streaming or recording gameplay from your Vita and you don't want to deal with buying a PlayStation TV or HDCP splitter, anything like that, this plugin right here is probably one of my favorite plugins, and this is how I'm actually recording the video right now for you guys. What is called UCDCD. It enables your PlayStation Vita to stream over your PC with any program, so I'm using OBS for this, and it allows you to, you know, live stream in real time. And as you can see, if you've been watching this video fully, you could notice that there's no lag. You could see that, you know, if I have my audio connected to the PlayStation Vita as well, you could hear it from my PC broadcasted to you. But yeah, that one plugin, if you're into gaming and streaming, that's one cool thing you can get installed. A main plugin that everyone uses if they quote unquote, you know, have backup games or they get it from wherever online. No MP-DRM allows you to bypass DRM for games. So let's say if you got a game offline, basically this plugin will allow you to run any backup games without, you know, actually purchasing it from the PSN store. Or as well, if you have a cartridge-based game, which I do sometimes. I have some Japanese and Korean cartridge-based games that never release via as a PSN digital version, so I could back them up via with no PDRM and play them on other accounts rather than, you know, always having the cartridge in, since I have my SD Vita in, if that makes any sense. I know I'm probably rambling on. I'm gonna go ahead and touch on two other plugins just for this section, and then we're going to go ahead and get started on the PSP stuff real quick, and then we're going to go into the next segment. So two plugins right here that could enhance your gameplay. You could be able to play your PlayStation Vita with a DualShock 4 controller, which I will have that in a link in the description down below, so you could actually use your DualShock 4 controller and play, you know, on your Vita with it, like with games like Street Fighter or any game at that matter. So you could connect your Vita with a DualShock 4. Another plugin I want to go ahead and state, if you're into patching games or, you know, modding games for the PS Vita, Repatch allows you to do that, and also it bypasses you know, the minimum firmware requirement for games as well. And if you're into fan translation games like Japanese to English games, that's what Repatch is for as well. But that's some stuff I just wanted to cover in this section. If I go into plugins for the PSP, if you guys were remembering when I was stating in Adrenaline, I was telling you that, you know, there was stuff from Kingdom Hearts. You could basically undub the version in audio for Kingdom Hearts as well. You could also, you know, for other games like GTA, there's a native patch which outputs the game to 960 to 544 resolution, which supports Vice City stories as well as Liberty City stories for the game, so it makes the game look way much better rather than the PSP native resolution. If I go into remaster controls plugins, as I was stating before, it allows dual analog support for, you know, said games. So I know it works with GTA Remastered, both of Liberty City and Vice City stories. It works with Metal Gear Solid, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, which what I use as well. So those are just some cool plugins you can enable. And then there's some extra stuff as well in auto plugin right here. You could set on custom boot splash, have some options for PKJ or GJ, and also have a custom warning. But all of that getting out the way, I know I'm probably running through this pretty fast, but if you want more information on auto plugin, I'll make sure I will definitely have cards in the link in the description once I have this edited out for, you know, videos about auto plugin itself. Next thing, what we're going to do is go to part 4, and then we're going to go ahead and talk about SD Vita. Alrighty, we are getting started on part 4 for this segment. We're going to be talking about SD Vita. We're just going to go ahead and get straight into Vita Show, and I'm going to basically explain how SD Vita is really useful for a modded PlayStation Vita. So as showcased here, I have my PlayStation Vita directories. If you notice something, I have an extra directory right here called UMA0, and that's basically extended storage. So this UMA0 right here is my 4GB memory card that I originally had for the Vita. This is just the original PS Vita memory card. However, UX0 right here is my SD to Vita card that is mounted via in my PlayStation system itself. If you guys remember, for the intro, I was showcasing on some of the prices and showing the actual SD to Vita device, and this is what I'm using for this video, which is just a 64GB micro SD card as well as the actual SD to Vita adapter as well. And what this allows you is to utilize more storage on your system for a way cheaper value. As you saw from the GameStop photo I had, it was like $129 or some crazy number just for, like, I guess a 64GB card. One, you could go ahead and buy like a 256GB memory card, or excuse me, SD card, for way cheaper for that price, and probably even a 400GB micro SD card at that price if you get a good deal. One thing I do want to showcase as well for this, if I scroll into this program called TF Card plugin, this is the actual plugin that allows you to set up SD to Vita onto your device. If you guys want more information on how to set that up, I will have a card about it, and also that video, excuse me, not video, I said video and video, but have that video, excuse me, in the link in the description down below. So here's the plugin itself for SD to Vita, which allows you to mount your SD to Vita via on your memory card. So it thinks your SD to Vita adapter device is your memory card, so that's what UX0 is for. You can also install this onto your PlayStation TV, which is pretty cool as well. So this works as extended storage. So if you wanted to keep your SD to Vita as extended storage like UMA0, you can as well, and just have your basic memory card for UX0, which I know some people do, but I use my SD to Vita as my main storage. And then there's some other cool things you could do in TF Card plugin: refresh live area, which basically refreshes of course the live area. File manager, just FTP from your Vita to your PC if you're transferring files within this program. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about SD to Vita. I will also have cards and a link in the description down below, or not a card, but a link to where you could buy a SD to Vita adapter via from Amazon and eBay. They're really cheap. They're like $5, $10 at pop, and for a 64GB SD card, it's like $10 on like Amazon or something like that. So for basically about like $20, you could get a 64GB SD card and fill basically a lot of games and Homebrew onto your device for a cheap amount. So yeah, that's all I have to say for segment 4. What we're going to do is go ahead and get started on segment 5 for this, and it's going to be the last segment. Sorry, I did rant through segment 4 because I know this video is getting quite long, but segment 5 we're just going to be talking about backup games. Alrighty guys, welcome back to the last segment of this video, part 5, and what I'm going to be doing is showcasing on backup games. So I have a few backup games on my system. I know this doesn't showcase of all my games I don't have my other PlayStation Vita right now, basically while I'm recording this, since it's dead. So what I'm going to be doing is just showcasing that backup no NPDRM games work fully with if you were to buy it from the regular PSN store. All you would have to do is just get a dump from online. I'm not really going to show the schematics due to piracy issues and legality issues, but you can run backup games on your device. So here is one of my favorite games of all time, Jet Set Radio, running on the PS Vita, and this is an official dump. You could see the game running just fine. If I go into the trophy app, let me go ahead and open up the trophy app. I still can't get over the Windows XP basically the theme, but yeah, you can see that trophy still work when no NPDRM dumps. If I go into my actual game itself, I'm going to just be touching some other topics as well. I could still overclock the game if I wanted to, so it runs at a better frame rate. So if I put this all the way up to the highest settings and save it, and then go down, you can see we're gonna have like a solid 60 frame per second frame rate. So I'm just waiting for the game to boot up. let me go ahead and start a new game. Oh, I needed to start a new game. Let me just turn it down a little bit since I don't want it coming over the microphone. So yeah, you can see that the game, well, it may not have a solid 60 frames per second, but it may have a solid 30 frames per second since we definitely overclocked the Vita. So, you know, like I stated before, having auto plugin can really enhance the actual gameplay. So here's me playing as Beat on Jet Set Radio. You can see that I have a solid 30 frames per second. It's not dropping at all. But yeah, if I go and back out from here, and if I go into Vita Shell real quick, I'll show you that I have the no NPDRM plugin installed, so I can even run this game. So if I go into my TIE folder right here, which will basically be all your plugins at, you can see the no NPDRM plugin right here. You can also see the config.txt that has the plugin itself to make me load this game, because if I deleted this plugin, it won't allow me to play, you know, backup PlayStation Vita games. As well, I have some other games here like Shakedown Miami. I also have Operation Babel Tokyo. This was a Korean game I dumped myself that I had as a cartridge. So this is an example of, you know, no NPDRM working on my system. So it's just booting up the application. It's basically extracting the trophy data too. So if I actually go into the trophy data itself, yeah, you can see that, you know, this title, Tokyo Operation, the Korean version, is on my device. But yeah, that's essentially just showcasing you know, playing backup games on my device. Of course, I already showed you on how to play other titles, just like, you know, Kingdom Hearts, PSP games, Emulation, and all of that fun stuff as well. But yeah, this is the end of the video. Hope you guys did enjoy this showcase. I didn't, you know, kind of skip over things, and I didn't really want to make this video long. But yeah, if you have any questions, or if you did like this video, please share with your friends. Please, you know, comment down below. But with that being said, hope you guys have a happy new year. Hope you guys will stay tuned with my channel. See you guys next time. Peace. Hey everyone, it's me, Nagato's Revenge here. Hope you guys did enjoy today's video. With that being out the way as well, I highly do recommend that y'all guys go ahead and follow my social media so you never miss any of the latest hacking guides and tutorials on my channel by subscribing to me and hitting that notification button as well. Is another method on how you will know when I drop my latest content, whether it be for the Vita, PS4, PS3, and such and so forth. As well, if you want to be in the mix of things and you want to join my official community, you can join via the link right now showcased on the screen and join my Discord that way. And if you do want to support my channel in any shape or form, you could become a patron. I will have a card right now. But with all of that getting out the way, hope you guys really did enjoy this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.